You can't giggle like that.
Yes, I fucking can.
Fun fact, I started working on this video in February, but then my government tried to ban airsoft and I spent the next 4 months alternating between political activism and now that fearless leader Trudeau is probably going to hold an election soon and he's probably going to win a majority, I realize I've been presented with an ultimatum: abandon this video and this channel as a whole like a little bitch, or put my all into the videos I can make while I can still legally play and go out with a bang. So let's fucking go. The rest of this video is already going to be at least 11 minutes long, and I've rambled long enough for this to count as an intro. Here's the stats on the guns I'm reviewing. Yes, I'm doing 2 at once this time.
You can't do that!
Yes I can, it's my fucking video! They're both MP5 clones and they're made by CYMA. I didn't buy both, rather I bought one, hated it, and converted it into the other. The plastic components don't feel fragile and the metal ones are reasonably solid. That being said, we're only talking about cast Chinesium alloy, not stamped steel. I can't imagine it would survive a serious fall or impact against a hard surface like a boulder or a large tree. But it's a step above the feel of a cheap toy that plagues plastic receiver MP5s.
Who made this gun?
While this gun is built fairly tough, it's definitely not refined. The charging handle, which I never slapped, snapped off less than a month after I bought the gun. Normally I wouldn't care about a decorative part like a charging handle, but it's not a decorative part on the MP5. You need it to access the hop-up. I tapped the hole to accept a 1024 screw, but it was a loose fit and prone to walking out from gearbox vibrations. Turns out square holes don't like to be threaded. There's a small through hole perpendicular to the square hole that's meant for a roll pin, so I drilled and tapped it for an M3 grub screw. Now my charging handle is rock solid, but I still can't slap it because the threads chew up the notch on the cocking tube. As I mentioned in my guide to iron sights, H&K diopter sights can be hit or miss, and this gun's sights are right on the cusp of being a hit. The rear drum has minimal play and is fully adjustable, and the apertures aren't tiny pinholes. Unfortunately, the gun's sights shoot way high. Even with the elevation turned all the way down and the hop set correctly, the apex of the BB's flight path is still well above the front hood. The flash hider's QD latch relies on a pair of knurled pins to stay in place. Both of these pins loosened up quite quickly and reached the point where they were liable to fall out during normal use. I took the pins out myself and then drilled and tapped the holes for a pair of M3 screws. I had to enlarge the slot and notch on the latch itself since the screws are slightly larger than the original pins, but now the latch isn't going anywhere. The selector is very mushy. I don't expect much clickiness from AEG selectors, but this one's really bad. Most of the internals are shit. The motor is slow, the inner barrel sucks, the bucking sucks, the compression parts suck, and I can't tell if the gears have been greased with Smurf cum or they just cram a whole ass Smurf in there and then let the gears grind the poor fucker into a paste. Also, the stock spring makes this gun shoot way too hot. It would make sense for something like an M4, M16, or AK that's more likely to be used on an outdoor field where it could pass chrono, but this is supposed to be a replica of a submachine gun. If you're in the market for such a replica, you probably plan on using it at an indoor field with a lower joule limit. Keep in mind, the stock spring is strong enough to put out almost 1.8 joules in spite of a short barrel and shitty compression parts. So if you did leave the gun bone stock, the gearbox shell probably wouldn't last long.
Bravo 6. Going dark.
I'd never given much thought to quick detach systems for mock suppressors or tracer units until I bought this gun. The idea of being able to reap the benefits of a tracer unit or rock the aesthetics of a mock suppressor while also being able to unlatch said muzzle device and make the gun shorter for use in a confined space was something that grew on me pretty fast. I really ought to stop with the run-on sentences, fuck. The only downside was needing to dedicate space on my rig for a suppressor pouch. I mostly play outdoors during the day, so it made no sense to buy a tracer unit. I looked into 3-lug mounted mock suppressors, but the only one I could find in Canada was from a retailer of, questionable repute. Thankfully, the factory flash hider mounts via 3-lug. So I fashioned my own that affixed to the flash hider with a zip tie. Ironically, it looks like shit, but it made the gun longer so it was close enough for testing purposes. I've used it on and off for about as long as I've owned the gun, and I think I can say the hype is real. QD cans are cool.
Oh, nice try! Nice try, nice try. Got him tagged though. Peekaboo!
That being said, you still have standard 14mm counterclockwise threads underneath the 3-lug system if you prefer a more dedicated setup. Just be careful not to lose this thread cap. 3-lug muzzled devices will be real floppy without it.
No! No! Fucking no! And furthermore, why?
Ah, Jesus. How
The front wired configuration is a double whammy of suck. Despite the handguard's bulkiness, it doesn't actually offer that much space. NIMS and lithium ions are off the table entirely, and some lipos aren't going to fit either if they're not slim enough. The gearbox itself isn't actually front wired, it's rear wired with extension wires wrapping around the side of the receiver and up to the handguard. If you want to separate the receiver and trigger pack to remove the inner barrel for cleaning, you have to take the extra step of taking the stock off and disconnecting the extension wires. Compared to a front wired AR where you separate the upper and lower and leave them tethered together by the wire harness, the MP5 is a pain in the ass. As a nice little shit cherry on top of the shit cake, the extra pair of connectors add resistance to the circuit and sometimes disconnect themselves. This also means aftermarket MOSFETs are out of the question, since they all use some kind of fuse which you definitely won't have the space for.
Bigger mag, better pain!
The shape of these mags makes them a bit more versatile than something like an AR or AK mag. They're about the same height and width as an M4 mag, but half the length, so you can fit them in a wide variety of pouches. Single mags will fit in pistol mag pouches, and 2 will fit nicely in an AR mag pouch. Speaking of which, each mag has more than half the capacity of an AR mag, so you actually get more ammo per any given amount of space with MP5 mags. You have to reload almost twice as often, but if you tape them in pairs Vietnam style, every second reload is so fast it basically doesn't count. On top of that, their slim profile means the coupled mags can still be handled like an AR mag, so you can still do 2-for-1 reloads like you normally would. If you want to do this, I recommend removing the sling mount on the mag well so that the mags can be tighter together. And for fuck's sakes, don't buy the off-the-shelf couplers. They cost as much as the mags themselves, and they make 2 mags almost as wide as 3, which ruins the pouch compatibility. Just make your own spacers about 4mm thick from wood or cardboard and tape the mags together. I've tried a few different brands for mags, and Echo One has come to be my favorite. Their straight mags in particular seem to have the best fit and feeding, and they're a tiny bit faster to reload on account of not being curved.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now. This is cancer.
The length of pull on the folding stock is way too long. A stock this long has no place on something larger like a DMR or an LMG, let alone a submachine gun. This makes the gun way too long for use in cramped spaces, and the mass of the metal receiver being so far out from your body makes the gun feel way more front-heavy than it actually is. Being able to fold the stock and make the gun easier to store and transport is awesome, but it's not worth a damn if the stock makes the handling this damn awkward.
It feels perfect!
The fixed stock for the CM041b solves all of the problems I have with the CM041's folding stock. The stock functions as a battery compartment that can only be described as a KFC bucket meal. Sticks, bricks, nunchucks, brick chucks, all of my lipos at the same time. You name it, it fits. Being truly rear-wired also means you don't need to take the stock off to field strip the gun anymore, and the extra connectors serve no purpose, so you can remove them entirely and solder the wires together for less resistance. The length of pull is not only not retarded, but also just right.
Damn.
Damn, boy! Damn, boy!
The issue isn't that the gun is heavy. It's just really heavy for its size. Here's my C7. It's just over a meter long, and with the factory scope, a Magpul AFG, and an M-LOK handguard from a Tippmann Recon, it weighs in at 3.3 kilos.
You forgot to add the weapon light, dumbass!
You forgot to shut the fuck up!
On the other hand, the 041B is 71 centimeters long, and it's just a hair under 3 kilos. That's right, this bone stock, butt-naked SMG is only 300 grams behind a full-size rifle with some basic accessories.
That shit is bananas.
Once you've added a claw mount rail, a red dot, a foregrip, and maybe a weapon light,
Now you're adding one?
How'd you get in my house?
I'm the voice in your head, you fucking schizo!
Fuck!
you're definitely going to eclipse that weight difference. The obvious solution to this problem is to get a gym membership, but when it's half a kilo heavier than the real fucking deal, I think I have the right to complain.
See the numbers, taste the violence.
The gearbox is a standard V2. Doesn't matter what brakes or what type of build you have in mind, you can find the parts you need pretty much anywhere airsoft is legal.
No! No! Not what I God!
The tappet plate, nozzle, and selector plate are proprietary. The Dremels exist, the Para Nozex exists, and selector plates don't break if you're not a dumbass.
Psych!
This is a real frickin' embarrassment.
The hop-up is a slider style like you find in an AK, but with some small differences. The good part is that it's stiffer and less prone to walking back than most AK hop-ups. The bad part? Well, there's a few of those. The cross pin for the hop-up arm is permanently welded in place, so if you want to remove or insert the nub, you better be handy with a pair of tweezers. You can take the cross pin out if you shave the bead off with a knife, but then the pin is loose and pretty much guaranteed to fall out. I found that the best way to solve this problem is to press a small piece of 3D printer filament in place with a soldering iron, which will tack the pin back in place. Most people don't have printer filament on hand, so I don't know how useful this trick actually is. Adjusting the hop is a pain too. There's no ear to grab with your fingers like there is on an AK, just this tiny groove for a fingernail. If you wear gloves, be prepared to take them off to adjust your hop. I really like the MP5. It stands out from the sea of ARs while being just as practical and easy to upgrade. Between my personal upgrades and the features needed for the platform, it's one of my favorite guns.
Alexa, show me my baby. Okay. There she is.
Sadly, the overall quality and construction typical of CYMA leaves a lot to be desired, especially after the shell cracked relatively early in its service life. After talking with people who have experience with other brands of MP5, I'm sure that saving up for a nicer brand of MP5 like a VFC would have been a better call. The one thing I can say for certain is that front-wired MP5s in general are a pain in the ass that should be avoided, and rear-wired ones are the best thing since sliced bread. One could argue that CYMA offers a budget alternative to VFC for those who don't mind doing the extra tech work, but anyone with the teching skills to do that will know better than to buy from CYMA in the first place. I guess the moral of the story is that it's okay to like snowflake guns, but if you want one that's not gonna suck, you can't afford to be poor. Save for the best on the market, or don't bother.
Oh, that was clean. Call that the double tap.